Your girl read 5 books in the month of May, and let me tell you, I got bamboozled by one of them. Which one is it? You're gonna have to keep watching to find out. Alrighty, welcome to my May wrap-up. I read 5 books in the month of May, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a recap and a rating of each one of those books. I am Megan, also known as Reading with Hot Chocolate, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it if it's the first time here. As a quick reminder, I do rate in hot chocolates. Why? Because it's on brand. So I will give it a 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever it may be, cup of hot chocolate rating to go along with my reviews. So first up, I actually started this book in April and am finishing it in May. So I counted it as a May read because I read most of it in the month of May. And that is And Now Back to You by BK Borison. And I gave it 3.5 hot chocolates. This is the sequel to First Time Caller. And I honestly liked First Time Caller better. I'm pretty sure I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I'd have to go back and look. I didn't hate it. It was cute. It was a fun concept. We have 2 meteorologists. We have Jackson and Delilah, and one works for a news station and one works for the radio station from the first book. And Jackson's the radio guy. You meet him in First Time Caller. Delilah is the meteorologist for the local news station. And they kind of are a little bit of enemies. Like, they have this built-in rivalry that we never really get explained. I think it's because Jackson feels like Delilah doesn't take the weather seriously. He is very serious about the weather, if you remember from the first book. Whereas Delilah is really just being treated horribly by her station manager. And quite honestly, as someone who works in HR, what the hell's going on in that news station? Because there's no freaking way that there's that much harassment and no one says anything. So that was my problem for me as someone who works in HR for most of my career. So that was really interesting to see how her station manager just basically is endlessly harassing her, and everyone just goes, I don't know, it's fine, whatever, until kind of the end. And so that was really kind of off-putting for me as someone in the field, but whatever. But we have Jackson. He is a green flag for me because early on he's talking to his little sisters who he has custody of, and they're talking about Somewhere I Turned Pretty, and he's like, Team Conrad. I was like, green flag. First thing I wrote down in my reading journal was that he was Team Conrad, so we had to like him. He does have custody of his 2 sisters because their father is MIA, if I remember correctly, and their mother is mother's a loose word for her. She is the person who birthed them, but basically has disappeared and is running around having the best time of her life and has left the girls in his care. So he's really protective. He's very serious, right? Because he's raising these teenage sisters of his and he doesn't want to mess it up. He's trying to protect them because their mother makes lots of promises and, of course, doesn't follow through. So it's a lot of kind of him and his sisters in there as well. His sisters are so excited that he is going on this work trip with Delilah. So Delilah and him, there's like a big snowstorm coming in, and their stations decide that they need to run together and try to kind of drum up some good press for each other. And they send them out to a hotel, and they want them to report on the weather system as it comes in, this record-breaking snow. Delilah's kind of just always a happy person. She's like, I'm bringing a sled. And he's like, why? And she's like, because it's gonna be a like once in a lifetime snow. We need to play in it. So she's trying to like loosen Jackson up a little bit. Of course, there has to be tropes. It's a romance. So we've got a 1-bed trope. Because Delilah's boss, like we said, is a dick. And he actually cancels her hotel room before they get there. And of course, there's a blizzard coming, so everyone's booked up every single room. They go and book her across the street. They spend like 30 seconds in the room, and they're like, nope, we'll share a room. It's fine. And they go back across the street. So we have a little 1-bed trope. Jackson has incredible like presentation fright or like stage fright. So he has to be on camera. He can't even handle being in the radio station and having to fill time. And Delilah, in a moment of panic, is like, let me see if I can like short circuit his brain. She kisses him. and he like kind of zens out because he's like so shocked. So they go on to do the next segment, and you kind of start to feel like, oh, maybe they like each other. We're getting a little bit of enemies to lovers, that kind of thing. And they go to the next segment, and they cut into the segment kind of early, I think is what happens. So they have hot mics, and they are in the corner, like making out, and you hear Jackson say something along the lines of like, kiss me Delilah or something. And so the entire town hears the kiss me Delilah because, you know, they've got hot mics, partially because her boss is an asshole. And there's like full on panic happening for both of them of what this is going to mean. So they kind of just act like it didn't happen. But the ratings are through the roof. Everyone's like now invested on what's going on with them. And they're just there through the whole snowstorm doing their thing. And it's a will they, won't they, enemies to lovers, one bed, all the good things that we like in a romance. I just thought it could have been a little bit deeper almost. I felt like it kind of was drawn out a little bit when it could have been a little bit shorter for me. What I liked about First Time Caller is that I couldn't put it down. That I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Whereas this one, I was like, can we get done with this snowstorm and get back to the city and resolve some issues, please? So that's why I gave it the 3.5 hot chocolates on this go around. They have announced the third book in this series, and I cannot remember what the name of it is off the top of my head, but they did do the cover reveal. So maybe I'll drop that up here so you can kind of see what that looks like. And that'll come out in 2027, I think. I should have looked things up before I started talking, but hey, I never do. So here we are. But I am excited to read the third one in the series, see what that one looks like. It may be kind of a podcast situation because the cover has like a little laptop and like some headphones. So it could be a podcast, could be a YouTuber. I'm not sure. I didn't read a whole lot about it. I just saw the cover reveal. So that'll be exciting. So that was my first book of May. And it was And Now Back to You by BK Borison. And I give it 3.5 hot chocolates. Book number 2 for the month of May was The Book Witch by Meg Shaffer. And I actually got this as an ARC from NetGalley. So thank you to NetGalley and the team over there for that. And I gave this book 4.5 hot chocolates. I loved this book. It was so cute. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but if you like a book about books, in books, this book is for you. It is so very like book meta because there's so many layers of books within this book. So we have Rainy March. Yes, that is her name. And she is a book witch. And book witches' jobs are to protect the integrity of books. So if some evil other book force goes into a book and starts to try to erase characters or steal characters from books or release characters from their books, the book witch's job is to be like, hey, Jane or Elizabeth Bennet, I'm going to need you to get off the beach here in Seattle and get back into your book. So that is what the book witch's job is. Because if the book characters are gone for too long and the book changes too much, it disappears out of history and no one will ever remember reading it, or they'll remember a different version of the book. So it's book witches are very important, and they have very strict rules about how long they can spend in a book, the relationships they can have in books. They can't be in the books for too long because then they become part of the story, which becomes a problem. And the way they enter books is so cute, and I was obsessed. So they have black umbrellas, and they kind of go to a page and they read it, and I think there's like a little incantation, she says, and they always try to pop up in like the period or like the dot of the I, and their umbrella is the dot. So they pop out into the book like in that sentence, and the umbrella is what like hides them from view as they go into the book. And I thought that was so freaking cute. Of course, she has a familiar. We have a cat, and the cat is kind of very much a cat, very sassy little cat. But always goes with her and is there to protect her. So her favorite book is a detective series. His name is Duke because in his story, he was a duke in England and he comes to Chicago to become a famous detective. So they all call him Duke. And this is her all-time favorite character. Like, her book boyfriend is Duke. And there's something going on in his story. I think they call them the Burners, and they're kind of messing with the story. So they send her on this mission, and they don't want to send her because they don't think she can handle it. And she's like, I can't handle it. He's my favorite. I have to protect him. And of course, that goes terribly wrong because they kind of fall for each other, as they do in books. And she ends up like going back and forth way more than she's supposed to. And she gets caught because she shows up in a copy of the book. So the head book witch banishes her from her job. She takes her umbrella, and she just is kind of at a loss. And then she remembers that she has magic book powder, and she casts the book powder into a free little library that needs some love, where if in that powder, the books that the library needs will appear. The wind blows, gets some of the magic pixie dust on her. So of course, what happens? The person she needs the most appears, and that is Duke. And he comes to her house, and she's like, how are you here? And then she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. Like, this is the worst. I summoned you. I didn't mean to summon you. And, kind of a whole lot of that is happening. And her grandfather, who has been raising her mother has died. Her grandfather is raising her, and he's like just missing. Like, he went on a mission, but he's on an off the books mission. And there's so many twists and turns in this book that I don't want to like give them all away, because I really genuinely loved this book. I think I gave it a half of a star less, just because it could have been like a smidge shorter. Not much. I probably could have actually gone 3. I could have gone 4 and 3/4 of a star, but I don't have a little star stamp for that for my journal. So I went with 4.5 instead of 4 3/4. But I really did enjoy it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I can't give it away. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to spoil anything in this book because it was that good of a read when you just realize how meta it all is. It's so good. So yeah, there's a lot of in and out of books. They go through other books to get to the book that they're trying to find. They pop in and out of Alice in Wonderland, Great Gatsby. She is a little bit on a mission to find out about her mom, and a little bit about what happened to her. So that's kind of the underlying thread of like the grandpa story is part of her mom's story. So that is a wild ride, and you just need to go read this book, guys. That's all I gotta say. So that is The Book Witch by Meg Shaffer, and I gave it 4.5 hot chocolates. All right, you've made it to the book that I got bamboozled into reading. It's my own fault, okay? This is 100% on me, but I still got bamboozled, and the book that bamboozled me was Not What We Pictured by Becca Kinzer. And why I say I got bamboozled is because your girl did not read the tags. I saw the cute cover, and I read a little bit of a description, and I was like, oh, this looks cute. And I am here for closed door romance. I don't mind reading closed door romance. That's not why I was bamboozled, because this 100% is a closed door, non-existent romance. But what got me, I will tell you in a minute. But I gave this 2.5 hot chocolates because I got bamboozled. But again, I did not read the tags. This is from NetGalley. So now I will make sure I carefully read tags. So we have our 2 main characters. We have McKenna and Nate. McKenna is very extra. She is trying to leave her hometown, but she feels like she has to get her adopted sister off and married. Like, that's her whole mission. The proposal for her sister keeps getting screwed up. Then the sister and the sister's boyfriend are like, are we even meant to be married? Everything's going wrong. And she's like, you have to get married, because she is under the impression that she cannot leave her town if her sister is not married. That should have been Q1 for me, but here we are. Red flag number 1. But it wasn't. I was just like, okay, this is kind of fun. Little small town romance, whatever. We meet Nate. He crosses McKenna's path because he is on the bench that she's supposed to be setting up for the proposal. And he's not giving up the bench. He just came from the funeral of his mentor. So he's like taking a mental break from his drive. So he's like, I'm just going to hang out here. And she's like, I need this bench. But she never really like explains why she needs the bench. So they kind of tussle back and forth. The boyfriend and the sister come down the path. She's trying to hide. Then she remembers that she has the ring in her pocket. Somehow the fiance ends up in the river that's next to the park. Nate goes in after him because the fiance can't swim. The sister's hysterical on the shore. There's a lot happening. And then Nate gets released from the hospital. Everybody's fine. He's like, I'm going home to my small town in Tennessee because my mom runs an Airbnb there and I'm going to help her with some things to get it, ready to go. All seems fine so far. Little red flags. Story seems a little, but I'm like, it's fine. This is whatever. I'm reading it. It was on NetGalley. It'll be fine. And they kind of keep talking about like their absentee fathers. Nate's father is some kind of country singer who was like, I want to be on the road, and like has abandoned him when he was a kid. They're all like out of college or college age at this point. And McKenna was orphaned. That's how she ended up adopted with this other family. The sister she's trying to make sure gets married and all that. They go to McKenna is like, I need this damn ring back. It's got to be in his pant pocket still because he had like a snap pocket or whatever. How you don't lose a ring out of your pocket in a river, I will never know, but here we are. So she figures out where he went. She goes to Tennessee to like get the ring basically. And Nate doesn't have his suitcase because the airline lost it. And it's kind of a wild ride a little bit with the luggage, and it keeps not being found, and then it's found, and then it's not found. So she's there waiting for the luggage. So she starts helping him around the Airbnb because his mother had to like emergency leave somewhere because her sister was having some kind of surgery. And Nate's like, what the hell is going on? Whatever. So they have like this really quirky like town council who are actually kind of fun, and they're trying to plan this big fundraiser, and it's never going to go the way it's supposed to. It's just not going to. It's not what's going to happen. And they think they've booked like a big singer, and you're sitting there going, there's no way. There's just no way. So there's kind of chaos there, and what bamboozled me did not happen until the last 20 pages of the book. It was cute. Now, there were weird, quirky things that, I was like, this is okay. It's fine. It's a small town. It's a clean romance or closed door romance. Whatever. I'm here for it. It's a cute story. It did seem a little bit long. It was 346 pages. That was a bit long. It could have been like 250 and probably still told the same story. But what bamboozled me at the end is that Nate goes to like try to save this festival that they're having. So he goes to his dad who has country music connections and reconciles very quickly for someone who's held a grudge for 20 something years. And McKenna kind of always felt some kind of way about like not having her parents around or whatever. So the last like 20 pages is when it fell off the rails for me. And I almost threw my iPad across the room. And that is because I inadvertently was reading a Christian romance. Which, if you like Christian romance, this book is for you. I have read Christian romance in the past, but I knew that going into it. So I went into it kind of with a different mindset. But what killed me, was when they were talking about their dads, their fathers. I should have been clued in by the word father much sooner. At the end, Nate's like, but McKenna, you do have a father. You have a heavenly father who is always there for you. Blech! I could not. And I'm sorry if I'm offending my friends that love Christian lit or Christian romance. I don't love it. I don't like Christianity that is like shoved in my throat when I'm reading something unexpectedly. Now, I have read, and now I can't think of the book, but Finding You, the movie, was based on the book. And I read the book knowing that it was written as a Christian romance. The movie was not. So I went into it prepared. And this is why this is my bamboozle, but my fault, because I went back and looked at the tags on NetGalley and it says like Christian romance. I just saw the first tag that said romance and went, sure, sounds good. But the whole like last couple pages, which also then made sense of why they were so obsessed with her sister like having to get married. And they never said like, oh, I bet you're having sex with Nate. It was always like, I bet you're making babies with Nate. It was awkward. Okay. There was a whole lot of, and her sister's a brat. Like her sister sucks so hard. Because she's super selfish, doesn't give a shit about anything else but herself. Like, I had a lot. Okay, now that I'm talking out loud about this book, I should have probably given it like 1.5 stars, but here we are. I hate the sister. Nate and McKenna are not dislikable characters. They're kind of cute. She wants to be a photographer, whatever. But there's a whole lot of like undertone when you hit the moment that you realize you're reading a Christian romance. But that you do have a father and he's a heavenly one and he's been there with you for the whole time. I threw the iPad across the room almost. If it had been a book, it might have gone across the room. But that is the book that bamboozled me. If you like Christian romance and closed door romance and like a wholesome book, which is 100% okay. You don't have to read smut to read romance. This book is for you. What I didn't like was not realizing what I was getting into at the beginning. So that is why I docked it so many stars. But someone somewhere will love this book. And I want you to love it. It was just not for me. And that was not what we pictured by Becca Kinzer. And I gave it 2.5 hot chocolates. All right. The time has come. After being bamboozled by a Christian romance, I felt like I needed a romance that was going to bring joy to my soul. So I picked up Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid, and I gave it 5 hot chocolates. I will say, the probably part of the 5 hot chocolate rating is based solely on vibes. I will not say that Rachel Reid is the best writer I've ever read. I will not say she's like a Pulitzer Prize winning writer, but the story and the characters and the vibes make it 5 stars. I watched the show first, then I read the book, and I'm gonna do a video sometime soon about kind of comparing them. But let me just give you a brief comparison. Jacob Tierney nailed it, right? I felt like I was watching the show, reading the book. That's how good of a job he did. But if you have not somehow watched the show or read this book, let me tell you a little bit about Heated Rivalry. We have 2 hockey players. Shane is Canadian. Ilya is Russian. They meet when they're 17 and 18, and they are set up to be this generation's rivals. They are both excellent hockey players. They're the same age. They're going to get pitted against each other because everyone in the NHL loves a good rivalry. In any sports team, teams freaking love when there is rivalry happening. And they really quickly start to have feelings for each other, which in any professional hockey, football, baseball, basketball, any professional sport, there is still a lot of very much don't ask, don't tell. Right? The people are not typically out in male dominant sports. And so they kind of don't know what to do with this. Is it just going to be a hookup? Do they really want to acknowledge their feelings for each other? And it becomes a situationship for like 10 years. Okay, so the book has a lot of time jumps because they see each other kind of sporadically while they are playing each other, right? So they plan to meet up when their teams play each other because they play on rival teams as well. So we have Shane buys like an entire ass building to be able to hook up with Ilya in his town without people accidentally hearing them or seeing Ilya coming and going from Shane's apartment. They meet at Ilya's hotel room, 1221, during different games and things like that. So they are just kind of like, neither one of them wants to admit that this is more than just hooking up, right? And they get to a point where they start to be like, well, maybe there is more to our relationship. And Shane freaks out. It's the first time that Ilya calls him Shane instead of calling him Hollander. And they are being intimate on the couch at Ilya's, and in a moment of passion, Ilya breathlessly says Shane. Right? He doesn't call him Hollander. He's like, you've seen the scene. You know what it sounds like if you watch the show. And then then Shane says Ilya's name instead of calling him Rosanov. And Shane fucking panics because now that's different. They're not calling each other by their like kind of traditional hockey names, last names. They're calling each other by their first names. And Shane bolts because he's like, oh no, okay, like this really means that like we are together. This is not just like us hooking up occasionally. There are feelings involved. And Ilya's like, starts immediately calling him Hollander again. He's like, what? He's like, oh, I forgot a team meeting. I gotta go. I can't stay, whatever. And Ilya's like, you forgot a team meeting? You're lying. Like, you're freaking out. So then they don't like talk to each other for months. And they finally see each other, and Shane kind of has the whole conversation with Ilya, and they really open up to each other and realize like this is not just a situationship. We really mean something to each other. And how are we going to deal with that in our professional lives as well as our personal lives? Because no one wants us to be together. A, we're rivals. B, we're gay or bi men in hockey. And it's a lot of kind of stress on them, and they continue to just live in secret. No one knows. Ilya is from Russia, which we know being bi or gay in Russia is a death sentence if you're caught. So he is not only having to deal with the hockey of it all, he's having to deal with his culture of it all. And that's kind of hard for Shane to understand because Shane's like, well, and he's like, I could never go home. And he was like, well, why not? He goes, it's Russia. Like, I can't be out and go home. And Ilya has a whole lot going on in his personal life. His dad has dementia or Alzheimer's or both. I can't remember exactly. And his brother's a piece of shit and is just using him for all of his NHL money. And so he's got just a lot going on. Shane also has a lot going on, but in different ways. He's always trying to be like the best hockey player and the perfect hockey player. And like his whole life is hockey. And so Shane and Ilya kind of don't understand each other all the time because of that. And, Shane doesn't always get what's going on. Also, Ilya doesn't let him in very often. And he finally does. And it just brings them closer together. And it's amazing. But Shane takes a hard hit in a game against Ilya's team. He gets a concussion. He's knocked out. And he's on the ice and he's like talking to Ilya. He thinks he's talking to Ilya. The paramedics are who he's talking to. And he's telling them like, tell him I'm okay. And they're like, who? Your dad? He's like, no, tell Ilya. Like, tell Ilya you're okay. I'm okay. And they're like, who? What are you talking about? And Ilya's like over like by him, kind of freaking out. And people don't realize it, right? They're like, oh, they have respect for each other as team captains. Ilya's just worried. Like Rosanov's just worried about him. No one wants to see somebody get hurt, whatever. And so it is kind of a little bit of the catalyst for what comes next. Ilya goes to visit Shane in the hospital, 1, because he's worried about his boyfriend. 2, he can kind of get away with it because it's the idea of like the captain going to check on the other player. That's not unheard of. So he goes to see him. Shane's drugged up because he's got like a concussion and a broken collarbone. And he's kind of a mess. And in his drug-induced stupor, he invites Ilya to his cottage. And Ilya's like, maybe, we'll see, maybe. And he's just trying to like appease Shane because he knows he's not all coherent yet. And they go on, they continue to talk, they continue to text, all that kind of stuff. And then we have kind of like the catalyst event for their relationship is Scott Hunter, who is the first book in this, technically in this whole series. Ilya and Shane are the second book. I will eventually read Game Changer, but I just really wanted to read Heated Rivalry first. So Scott Hunter is another hockey player who by this point we already know is gay because in the first book it's happened. But he wins the Stanley Cup. He calls his boyfriend down to the ice, kisses him on national television after he's won the Stanley Cup. The crowd erupts. Everyone's like, oh my God. But Ilya and Shane are watching. And that moment changes everything for them because they realize we're not alone. Maybe we can do this thing. And Ilya famously calls Shane and goes, I'm coming to the cottage. In the book and in the show. And that is also where trouble ensues. Because they do go to Shane's cottage for like 2 weeks. Ilya flies out to Ottawa. They are having a great time. And kissing, making out, having sex, doing all the things. Well, Shane's dad comes to pick up something that he was missing. And sees them on the back porch. Ensue complete panic from Shane because he's never come out to his parents. Now he not only has to come out to his parents, but he has to tell them that he's dating his arch rival. And they go to his parents' house, and it's such a great conversation with Shane's parents. It's so good. We all hate the word lovers equally now because that's what Ilya keeps saying when they keep asking like, well, like if you weren't together, then like what were you? And they're trying so hard not to be like, we were just hooking up. And finally Ilya's like, lovers. And you're just like, oh God, stop saying that word. You kind of feel for Shane in that moment because that would be the worst when you're sitting with your parents. But that is where we leave them in Heated Rivalry. They are out to Shane's parents. Shane's parents are excited for them. They are also nervous for them and what that means for them. But it's also the first time that Ilya kind of has a family because his family sucks so hard. He does have a good friend, Svetlana, who we meet, and she's lovely. He's hooked up with Svetlana because Ilya is bi, so he has hooked up with her. But she is just fantastic, and we love her to pieces. So that was book number 4 for the month, and that was Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid, and I gave it 5 hot chocolates. All right, last but not least, I read The Long Game, also by Rachel Reid, and I also gave it 5 hot chocolates. This is the middle book in the Shane and Ilya series. We now know Unrivaled will come out next year, and this book, I flew through it. I read it in like a day and a half, basically. And I didn't even take that many notes because I was so absorbed in it. And I cannot wait for season 2. I have very vivid moments in my brain that if they're not in the show, Jacob Tierney, we will fight. We know the trophy scene is there, but there's like little scenes that I'm excited about, and I'll tell you about them here in a minute. So we pick up with Ilya and Shane. And we really quickly realized that Ilya is struggling. Ilya's mother, I didn't talk about it a second ago, but Ilya's mom had depression and had committed suicide when he was young. So we know that Ilya's family has a history of depression. And he's really struggling. He has switched teams from Boston to Ottawa to be closer to Shane because Shane's in Montreal for his team. And he's playing on a shit team. They don't win, but he's like, this is important to be close to Shane. I need to be closer to Shane for myself. And they still have like really opposite schedules. They're both still NHL players and trying to navigate what that looks like and keep their secret. But he struggles when Shane's gone for long periods of time. He's not able to kind of regulate himself. He's not winning hockey, which has always been something that he's been good at. The fans are like mediocre in Ottawa, and he's just not comfortable in his own world. And he doesn't feel like Shane is there for him because he's always on the road. And Shane has told friends and family that he's gay. They have not necessarily know about Ilya, but they know he's gay. Whereas Ilya's still in the closet. No one knows about his bisexuality, and his mental health is not great. They're both feeling the stress though, right? Because Shane's is not as well regulated with his emotions when Ilya's not around, and Ilya puts his actions where his mouth is. They start a charity. They start the charity that I forgot to talk about it in the last one, guys. I'm sorry. They do start a charity together to kind of help change that narrative of rivals. And the charity donates to mental health. It's like a hockey camp. A lot of the players come. It's super fun for the kids. So Ilya finds a Russian speaking therapist in Ottawa because he's like, I need to be able to speak in Russian to express myself the best. So he starts going to a therapist. He doesn't tell Shane. He does think that it should be like an overnight fix. He keeps telling her, like, you haven't fixed me. And she's like, hey, bro, you have a lot to deal with. It's going to take some time, but how about this? So she talks about, how about you get to tell somebody? That might help if you feel like you have somebody in your corner, not necessarily about Shane, but about being bisexual and that kind of thing. And they really just are ships in the night, and they keep kind of passing each other, and it's stressing them out. They have the most heartbreaking fight at Christmas. They get in a huge fight because Ilya's just so stressed. And Shane just doesn't understand what's going on. And I tell you what, this scene is going to make me cry if they do it right, which they will, because it's Jacob Tierney and Connor and Hudson, and they're going to do it right. I have no worries. But Shane and Ilya just fighting, and it's like craziness. And it's kind of the first time Ilya expresses all of his thoughts to Shane, because he tells him, he goes, if you had to pick between me and hockey, Shane says, if you had to pick between me and hockey, what would you pick? And Ilya tells him, I've already done it. I've picked you. And Shane's like, what are you talking about? Because he doesn't realize all of the sacrifices that Ilya has already made. He's playing for a shitty team. He's moved towns. Like, he just took it for granted, basically. And after their big fight, he realizes, like, I took him for granted and I am a dick. So he calls his mom and he's like, oh my God. And she's like, you can fix this. It's okay. Like, this is okay. You love each other. Everything's going to be fine. What is the catalyst event for their relationship is Ilya's team is on a plane and they lose engines. And it's not a crash. They don't crash, but they almost crash. And Ilya is like, I have to put all my feelings in writing real quick. So he Instagram messages Shane, because obviously they don't have internet, or they have internet, but they don't have signal. So he like Instagram messages him, and when they land, he sends him a regular text, and he's like, hey, don't panic. Like, this is what happened if you see the Instagram message. And that really like terrifies Shane, that those could have been the last words that he ever got from Ilya, would have been that Instagram message. And it really kind of is the catalyst for Shane wanting to get married, wanting to tell people about their relationship, and kind of all of that. Now, they lose control of the narrative, unfortunately, and it's no one's fault. Hayden goes off while they're at Hayden's house playing with the kids, and Hayden goes off to record a cameo, basically, whatever they call them in this universe. And he goes in to a room and he starts recording. What he doesn't realize before he sends it to Brandon, the fan that asked for it, is that Shane and Ilya are behind him in the window kissing. And really quickly, it spreads. And everyone's like, oh, is this like a joke? Like, this is the NHL? Or are they messing with Hayden? And they want to say, no, this is us. This is us. This is our relationship. Hayden feels terrible. He feels like he's outed them, and it's craziness. And he genuinely did not mean to. Yes, he does not. Him and Ilya fight still, but he would never do that to them. And the commissioner calls them both into his office. The commissioner's a dick. He can go to hell. We don't like the commissioner. And he basically says, you're not going to make any statements. You're not going to do anything. And they're like, bet. And they like hit post on Instagram. And the backlash and applause is both sides happen. The Montreal team is not happy with Shane. They treat him terribly. JJ can suck it. I hate him. I want to punch him in the throat. Partially because he just doesn't handle it well, but I also see get why he's upset with Shane, because Shane didn't tell him and he told Hayden, and he considers Shane a close friend, but they just don't react well. Then, in the midst of all of that, Shane and Ilya's teams are facing each other in the Stanley Cup. Talk about pressure, because now the whole world knows that you're dating and you're rivals and you're about to play the Stanley Cup, and they are competing as they have for 10 years or 13 years against each other. And a genuine accident happens. Shane trips as he's chasing Ilya down on the ice. Shane's team wins. No, Ilya's team wins. Shane's team thinks he did it on purpose. And that is what crushes Shane. That his team has so vastly changed their opinion of him that they think he would purposely give up winning a Stanley Cup just because now they know he's dating Ilya. If they didn't know he was dating Ilya, they'd be like, oh man, that sucks, you tripped, you know? So it changes their dynamic, and we hate Montreal because of how they treat Shane. Oh, the scene that, if it's not in the show, Jacob Tierney, I will fight you. Ilya has these adorable little neighbor kids. I don't even care if you see the neighbor kids. You should, because they do stand out at every game on the way out of the neighborhood, and they like wave and they're like, go Ilya, like, and cheer for him. And he like really uses them as like a mood boost. Like, he gets so excited. He won't ever really admit it, but he does look forward to seeing them and they're cheering when he's leaving for games, for home games. And he pulls out of the driveway to go to the first home game after they got outed, and the kids made signs that are cheering both him and Shane on, and they put their little Funko Pops like out together on the sign, and I'm crying already. I was like crying reading the book. So Jacob Tierney, if you do not put that scene in with the little kids and the Funko Pops, we will have fights, because it's making me emotional just thinking about it now, because I can't imagine the stress of like them being outed and wondering what the entire world is thinking, and then Ilya drives by and the little kids have updated their signs and put their little Funko Pops out together. Like, I can't. Oh my god, I can't. Okay, pull it together, Megan. You can do this. So I need that scene, and I need it in the show. We also know that the trophy room is a big moment where Shane's really just not feeling himself, and so Ilya says, I'm gonna make you remember who you are. And they have some hot steamy sex in Shane's trophy room, which they have confirmed is going to be in the next season already, so that'll be a fantastic scene. I will read the other books in the series. I have 2 or 3 of them, but I just really wanted to read Shane and Ilya and just live in that world a little bit, and I loved it, and I cannot wait to see what happens with Unrivaled. But that is the end of my May recap. The last book there was The Long Game by Rachel Reid, and I gave it 5 hot chocolates. And I do have a couple more videos planned coming up in the next couple weeks, the next couple days, maybe. So be on the lookout for those, and I will see you guys again real soon. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed May's reading wrap up. And to make sure you don't miss any more of my videos, make sure you turn on those notifications and hit that subscribe button. See you soon.